Hello everyone, and welcome back to my little demo painting. If you recall, this is where we left it last time. So to continue on with your abstract expressionist painting, one of the things that you'll want to do is just kind of sit with it for a while and figure out where is the painting going. And if you're struggling with that, so here's some things that you can do. So first off, one of the things that can be really fun to do is to just flip the painting around and look at it from different angles. Unlike your self-portrait or your still life, this painting, just because you started it one way, it doesn't actually have to end up the way that you started it. Or you can work on it, quote unquote, upside down for a while, and then turn it back to the way that it was, and it can just kind of help give you a different perspective. So for example, I really kind of like, initially I'd started this landscape style with this stuff on that side, but I kind of like how it's looking when I turn it this way. So I think I'm going to work on it this way for a while, and that just kind of gives me a slightly different perspective and feeling like, oh, okay, I want to work on some of the things over here, and I'm liking this horizontal nature over here. So it'll just kind of give me some, like, a different way to work on it for a while. Another thing that you can do is you can ask other people if they think it needs anything, and these people can be your classmates. Definitely, please reach out to each other, even though we're all separate now. Yeah, use the internet. It is your friend. So ask your classmates or ask the people who are in the house with you. They don't necessarily have to be artists to have good opinions. I get some of my best feedback from my husband, who is not a trained artist or a practicing visual artist, but he just has a good eye for looking at things and seeing things that I don't see. And then one of the things that I'm going to sort of experiment around today with is I'm going to use a chopstick to apply paint. Just to kind of give me something a little bit different, a different texture, a different line, and we'll see how that goes. So for colors, I started out with my anxious orange, as you remember, and then I kind of pushed it back with some of these pinks and yellows. But I think today I'm going to transition into some peaceful blues and greens. So see if I can kind of, like, in the process of painting, literally transition from being anxious to being peaceful. It may or may not work. One of the things that's nice is that these blues and greens are sort of opposites, the orange and red. So one of the things I want to keep in mind is the opposites will make each other sing, which is really nice, but they won't blend well together. So this blending that I was doing, I'm probably going to want to avoid that. I'm going to want to layer the blues and greens on a little bit thicker. So I just mixed up, I had some different paints pulled out here, and I have my gloss medium here. And so I mixed up kind of a darker green and then added a little bit of white to it. And then I've got two sort of darker blues and a medium blue. None of these are super light. Since this is kind of pretty light, I'm going to start with dark. And then if I need to add more light, I can do that later on. So I'm just going to start with this one. And because it's a chopstick, it's just a little bit unusual. And I'm just going to, I think, over here, just see what happens when I pull this blue across my painting. And I'm just going to do that. Go back up here. Come back in. I think I'm going to kind of mimic this line to try to create some sort of rhythm. Instead of doing something different, I'll see if I can kind of keep mimicking the line. I mean, it's giving me this really, even though I'm going for peaceful, it's giving me this rough edge, but that's super interesting. And again, this kind of painting sort of just evolves on its own, and sometimes things happen and you like it and you're like, well, that's not where I was intending, but it's interesting. So I'll go there. Okay. Now I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to see how close I can get with a slightly different color. I'm going to try to make this one thicker. It's really scrapey and kind of weird. And not necessarily peaceful yet, but certainly contrasty. But maybe that's indicative that peace is not always the way that I expect or plan it to be. I don't know. Take this where you will. Just filling in some of these spaces. And right now it's kind of hard to tell that these are different colors. That may show up more later as it dries, or it may not. We'll see. Pull some that green in here. So that is nice and contrasty. One of the things that I want to be careful of is I don't actually, if I'm going for this texture, I don't want to like smush it in too much. Pull at the paint here because I didn't mix up a lot of paint and this sort of leaves chunkier areas. Let's see. So let's pull, I'm going to try to mix this light into the dark that I already have. Humming to myself while I work. And we'll mix this light blue in over here. Let's connect these two. There's sort of a stronger line going on down here that I'll try to really emphasize. This is awkward and weird because I don't normally paint with a chopstick. Also, I just grabbed a square style chopstick. If I had a round chopstick, this might end up looking different. But I kind of like how the square end is working for me right now. And let's really push this dark line down here. Oh, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. Just trying to add some more. Dark stuff. Ooh, I like his sort of peacocky feathering up here. Let's see if we can really play with that. Just with like little water droplets. Boom, boom. Maybe now that I've said that out loud, I'll kind of play with the idea of water a little bit more with the rest because water is peaceful. Let's see, how does that look in balance? Okay. Let's really pull this all together right here. Okay. So I've just added this kind of blue line across, bluish green line across, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm gonna let that dry before I go back in, both for texture's sake, but also just for brain space. Like, I kind of like how that turns out, so I want to let it sit in my brain and on the painting for a little bit before I decide if and what next to do. For this assignment, one of the things that I have yet to conquer is adding my mixed media piece in. So as it may or may not start to feel like it's getting close to the end of the painting, that's something I want to think about sooner rather than later. It could be that you have a plan for it and want to add it at the very end. That's totally fine. Or it could be that you have a plan and you added it at the beginning. That's also great. For me, it's something that I haven't really thought about, so I need to think about. So I'm going to put that in my brain and come back to this. Okay, bye. All right, this is going to be my last demo. I'm not going to finish this today, but just demonstrate how I would go about finishing this. So, this is where I left it at my last demo. I let it dry. And again, when I'm coming back to it, I would probably just sit here and look at it for a little bit and start flipping it back around again. See if I see anything new. See if I like it better in a different direction. I don't know. Let's play with it like this for a little bit. I might like it better the other way, but let's try this for now. So what I really need to address is adding my mixed media piece. So one of the things that I really liked about what I did last time is it sort of feels like water, like a tiny drip of water, but kind of water flowing through this kind of anxiety, this anxious orange. And water for me has always been calming and peaceful, and so that's something I think that that's a direction I want to go in and I want to emphasize. So what I did is I went through my house and I just kind of started searching for like, what mixed media objects do I have? So I do a lot of craft work with little kids in my job with the symphony, so I have a lot of craft supplies. So I started looking through like, okay, I've got sequins, I've got buttons, I've got beads, I've got embroidery thread. I think this is like Easter basket grass. This is whatever sort of ribbon thing. And these are all things that I can just kind of like start to play with, like, and just put it on there and take a look. Do I like how it looks? Not so sure about that. This one I can kind of already tell, like, it's worth putting out there, but no, the zigzag nature is too much. The sequins and the buttons, they feel a little too crafty for me, and initially I thought the beads would be a little too crafty here, but if I end up gluing them right there, these sort of like, I've got these like see-through, oops, sorry, get that in focus. So they're a little bit more see-through, kind of glassy, so they feel a little bit more sparkly. And I like putting them there where it's like maybe, and I'd sort of experiment with arranging them, but it's like that splooshy moment of water. And what that does is it starts to create kind of a moment of emphasis. Like I've got different moments that move your eye around the whole canvas. And this is kind of what we talk about with like, how are you creating emphasis and contrast and balance? And that's what creates the story of the picture, more so than like actually doing a story. So again, like I'm going for a water feeling, but I'm not actually painting a waterfall or painting a river. I'm going for kind of a sense of anxiety, but I'm not painting a person who feels anxious. So I could also add this. Some other things I thought about, like I have these, these giant packing air things. And I was wondering, like, if I just cut some of the area that's just the plasticky part and just kind of glue that on, would that be interesting? It definitely like give that like shiny reflective nature of water, but would it feel, again, then maybe I come back to like, is it more peaceful? Is it less peaceful? Do I like it? One thing I thought about was I got out my hot glue gun, and you can see when it drips, or you just kind of squeeze it out, I could even do just like globules on top. Now this is something like I'm doing this on a separate sheet of paper to see how it ends up before I do it on here. But I think I kind of like that, so I'm gonna try that, like glue as the actual thing itself. And then if I wanted to, I could add those beads in later on. Now, one of the tricky things about hot glue is I've got those trails of like little glue threads, but those would come off pretty easier later on. So I'm just gonna do some dots. And one of the fun things is they'll sort of distort the, and highlight the color under it. I'm going to try to do some smaller ones and some more right here. So I think that's fun. So again, after attaching this, I probably, I'm not actually going to attach these beads because I need them for another project, but if I were to move forward with this, I'd probably attach these beads. And in my case, I don't think I would end up painting over these because I like the translucent nature of the glue, and I like how the beads create this moment of emphasis. So I'll just kind of arrange them. So, and already like I kind of went into that hot glue and sort of ruined it, but it's fine. So after that, I want to let my glue dry, make sure my thing's attached, and then again, come back to it, rotate, see what I think is needed. You can choose to paint over your mixed media object or not, but the important thing is if it's an object like a photograph, you are going to want to paint over it in the sense that you want the imagery in the photograph to kind of disappear and become a part of the larger sense of emphasis, balance, color, texture. You want it to take place and precedence in that area and not in the, like, it looks like something sort of arena. So if you're using a photograph, you are going to need to kind of figure out a way to destroy it in a sense so that you can incorporate it into your painting. But at this point, I just kind of, in order to finish, I'd just keep coming back. I don't know that this is finished, but I'd sit with it for a little bit and then think through it. And then at the end, in the writing response, the challenge is to give it a name. And naming abstract pieces is like, it can be really fun because really you can name it anything. You can go crazy, you can go funny, you can go deep and meaningful, you can go philosophical, so have fun with that. And then turn it in. It is due next week. All right.